I was chasing freedom. And you'll hear a lot of my story is I wanted control. I wanted freedom. That's what drove me to become an entrepreneur, because I wanted those things. And then as I've learned, the more you chase freedom, the farther it gets from you, because you're always focused on it. True high level sales is actually communication and high level understanding of what someone needs, and then pairing what you have to their need. And high level sales is also learning when to say no.
Wyatt Simon is the co-founder of the Full Circle Real Estate Empire, an author and leader of Omaha's #1 real estate mastermind. His story of struggling with addiction and self-destructive behavior to coming back to Christ and building a highly successful business is inspirational. We talk about his emerging from the darkness, what it takes to be great at sales, and the lessons learned along his business journey. If you're wanting to get into real estate or are looking for inspiration and real-world tips to apply to your business, this episode is for you. Enjoy the show. Wyatt, thank you so much for coming on, man. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Brian, thank you for having me. I gotta share with you, I'm coming off of a high right now. I just got back from Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, literally 2 days ago, and it is a 6-day intensive. 14 to 16 hour days up until 3 a.m. But man, it was life changing. So I am so excited for the future and the new beliefs and just 2025 in general. So thanks for having me on.
Well, that is amazing. I am so happy to hear that, because yes, I believe that 2025 is going to be a fantastic year in the business world, not only for myself, but for everybody else that is passionate about it. So that's amazing. So what was, it was 6 days, obviously, with Tony, which is unbelievable. What was the most impactful moment that you can remember, or the thing that sticks in your brain is like, this is something that I'm taking with me for the rest of my life?
Whew. Well, jamming 50 hours into one thing, but the one, if I had to break everything down into just, a couple sentences here, it's the fact that we as humans are shaped by our previous experience. And so our previous experience we derive meaning from, even though we may not have a lot of context to derive that meaning. For example, you might have only lived in Florida and Arizona, and you might think that 60 degrees is cold. Right. And so we
It is
derive.
cold, by the way.
Yeah. I know you're in Arizona here. Well, it is. It's 34 today here in Omaha. But long story short, you don't have enough context. We don't have enough context when we derive meaning from something. And what'll happen is we have life experiences when we're very young, and we derive meaning from those experiences. And then those shape our fears, and those shape our values. And if we don't consciously take time to step back and decide what we value, and decide what gives us pleasure, and decide what gives us pain, then we are shaped by those memories in the past. And so what's the beautiful part of this is we can transform our lives when we take time to actually make those decisions and relive and rethink of our life experience with different perspectives.
Did you get to hook in to any of those old belief structures that you believe you've had the ability to see through now and is really going to propel you forward in 2025?
Absolutely. Yes. I'll give you an example of that. So when I really took time to look at like what was driving me, a lot of it was security and significance, right? I was chasing freedom. And you'll hear a lot of my story is I wanted control. I wanted freedom. That's what drove me to become an entrepreneur, because I wanted those things. And then as I've learned, the more you chase freedom, the farther it gets from you, because you're always focused on it. And so instead of chasing freedom, instead shifting my beliefs to be love, to share love with people, to already have gratitude for all of the things, this gift, this beautiful gift of life that God has given us.
That's incredible. I couldn't agree more. The more that I live this life, the more that I connect with people and just try to understand where everyone else is coming from, that concept of love definitely is at the forefront. Love and gratitude, and they're basically interwoven together. So
Yes.
it's so great to hear you say that, and because I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And I'll share one last thing on this note. So, fundamentally, I think a lot of people, and myself included, can get trapped living in our own lives chasing something. And anything that persists resists. Problems need energy to live. And so instead of being trapped in a body and a mindset of chasing something, we can actually find true peace within ourselves by just letting ourselves have grace and changing our skills, changing our value system within how we believe, and just becoming a light of love.
Very well said. Very well said. And would you think that creation, the ability that humans have to imagine something and then make it materialize, do you think that that factors in to the ending of the chase?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean fundamentally I believe our subconscious is 80% of our results. 20% is our conscious. So what does that mean? We can literally manifest things. And a lot of the times, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs, 80% is beliefs, 20% is skill set. And so we have to believe that number one, we can do the thing. And number two, we have to believe in ourselves as leaders to then start to hire and associate and inspire others, right? And then once we have those good people in place, then it comes into the strategy of actually, putting in the systems and developing a company that can thrive on its own without the entrepreneur involved.
Mm. And that sets up the rest of the podcast perfectly, because I agree that 80% is all up here when it comes to business. 20% is the work. And so let's start going down that rabbit hole of entrepreneurship, since this is get your entrepreneurship together.
Let's
Mindset's
do it.
important. But now let's start talking about the business journey. So I was curious, what were you doing before you got into the real estate world? And how did that shape your journey into it?
So in college, I played college basketball at a very small school in Nebraska, where 5'11" white guys play basketball. um, but anyway, so I had a scholarship. I studied business, and then while I was doing that, I was interning at a company where I was selling ads to farmers on the phone in a full suit and tie, in a rows of desks. It was just like corporate from the 60s. And within that job, I had one day, and I drove 46 minutes from college to the place to intern there, along with being a college athlete, along with doing all the other things in the extracurriculars. So my life was pretty busy at that time. And there was one day my boss tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Wyatt, we need to talk." So I went back there, and she goes, "Wyatt, where's your belt?" And I looked down and I realized, okay, I forgot my belt. Again, I'm wearing a full suit and tie, sitting in rows of desks to talk on the phone to farmers to sell them ads. And she said, "Well, you better fix this. You can't come into work without a belt." It was just so ridiculous. And so I had to drive home, and by the time I would have got back, I wouldn't have been there for close time. So, anyways, that little experience really shaped that I did not want to be in corporate America for the rest of my life. So from there, I failed at my next job. I worked for a home buying company in Colorado, and that opened my eyes to real estate. I I was running leads for them. They were buying about 25 homes a month, and so I was running leads for them, trying to buy houses for them. But I had zero sales skills. I was the most energetic 20-year-old trying to buy your house for nothing, and didn't know what I was doing. And unfortunately, they didn't have much training or systems, and so failed at that job. Hit rock bottom in my life. I was partying, I was, doing drugs, I was doing all the things. I was totally living for myself, and I found myself having nothing. No, I wasn't good at my job, had no money in my bank account, and I had really burned a lot of the relationships in my life because I was just very selfish. And so it was back in 2017, about December of 2017, when I gave my life back to Christ. And then I ended up taking a job in Omaha, Nebraska, where the girl I was talking to, now my wife, uh, was living. And from there, I worked for a foundation sales company, and I learned how to have sales skills. And so for the first couple months, I was very below average. The third month, I became average after, learning and developing these skills. By the end of the year, I was in the top, like third of salesmen at the company. By the second year, I became the top salesman at the company. By the third year, I became the top salesman in the network of 350 other companies nationwide. And all along there, I started buying real estate.
Let's go down a rabbit trail just a little bit, because sales obviously is a very important aspect of doing business. If you don't have sales, you don't have customers, you don't have a business. As you were going through that process of getting trained up and trying these different skills you were learning, what is the key to having a sales conversation and having someone see really the benefit of it for themselves?
Well, to start off with, all it takes is listening to what they need and actively listening, right? Like and not just, you should be able to understand what they're saying and then reflect back to them, labeling it. If you've read Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, label back what they're saying to them until you get a that's right. Once someone truly feels understood and you know that you truly understand them, then you can connect the dots to see if you have something that can actually help them. And true high-level sales is actually communication and high-level understanding of what someone needs, and then pairing what you have to their need. And high-level sales is also learning when to say no. If you fully understand what they want and you don't have anything to offer them that actually helps them and solves their problem, then let them know that and walk away. However, if you do have something that does solve their problem and they have that problem, well, then you need to have the conviction within yourself to actually sell it to them. Because when two people meet, the person that is going to be influenced is the person that has the most belief. So you must believe in your product and you must know how to listen to someone to see if it actually helps them.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Now, we were talking about your journey at that sales position. And at the time, you had started investing in real estate. Now, what spurred that? Like, where is the connection that was made between, just working a sales job, getting your life back together, and, oh, I need to start doing this real estate thing? How did that happen?
Yeah, great question. So I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the Purple Bible. Have you heard of it?
I've read it, and after I read it, the very first thing I did was go invest in a REIT.
There you go. Well, and why did you invest in that REIT? What caused the shift in the mindset there? What did the book communicate to you?
It really helped communicate the difference between assets and liabilities. I had never heard that language before in my life. And I was, what, 30, 32 when I read that book? Never heard asset, liability, like foreign language. What? So as soon as I read that and understood that, I was like, I have to go get an asset right now.
Yes. And so I had the exact same shift within me. What really it broke down, okay, you don't have to work for money. I don't have to work for money for the rest of my life if I buy assets, and I can have assets work for me while I sleep. And so immediately, you bought an asset. Immediately, I was asking the question to myself, how do I buy assets? And the problem was I was in my young 20s when I read it, and I had no money. So I naturally gravitated towards real estate because, I heard 90% of millionaires are made through real estate. I said, that's what I want. I want to become a millionaire. I'm going to take the easiest, most proven path of becoming a millionaire through real estate. And so I then had to figure out, okay, how do I buy real estate assets when I don't have much money? And in order to do that, the first thing I had to do was I had to be able to get loans. And so my first job, I could not get loans because I was a 1099 sales commission job. And in America, at least, you have to have 2 years of previous 1099 experience to be qualified to get a loan. And so then I said, okay, how do I shift that? I took a job that was a W-2, so salaried. And so I took a job that was W-2 in order to get a loan. And then I also took a job that was W-2 plus commission. So I knew that I wanted to get paid for the results that I produced so that I could put in more effort and get paid more. And so I had salary. So now I was able to get a loan. Plus, I was able to get uncapped earning potential with the commission based. And because of that, I was able to buy my first property, which was a duplex. And so I lived in one side and I rented out the other. And not only that, I lived in the small bedroom and I rented out the master in my room. And then I finished out the little basement and put in another bedroom and rented that out to my buddy. So I moved my living costs. I was paying $900 a month in rent. And then I bought that duplex. And not only did my living costs go to zero, but I was actually getting paid $400 every month to be in my property.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. And where did you get the idea to do this, or the methodology? Because this is not something that's taught in school. Like, how do you buy real estate and get in without spending a dime of your own money? Like, this is not common knowledge. So where did you find that knowledge?
So often humans lack resources, or they don't lack resources, they lack resourcefulness, right? All of the knowledge is actually out there. If you look on YouTube, you can go to YouTube University for anything, right? For me personally, my first job was home buying in Colorado, right? So I was fortunate enough to understand how to run numbers for investors, and I could see how much money they were making and how much little I was. I was like, dude, I got to do this. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing was I stumbled across something called Bigger Pockets. And at the time, Bigger Pockets was I would say, a much better resource. It has definitely, it has been sold, and now it's a lot of private equity that runs it. So it's kind of gone downhill a little bit. But there's a lot of free resources on Bigger Pockets for how to invest in real estate. And they talked about this concept of house hacking. And house hacking is when you, again, buy a place, you live in one side, you rent out the other, and you basically you reduce your living expense as much as possible while owning real estate, and you can get into it with very little money. All of these things are things that I did in the very, very beginning of my journey when I was in my young 20s and I had no money. And then, since then, there's been a lot of changes. I've built 4 businesses and done a lot of other things. But
Yep. And that exactly sets up the question that I wanted to ask you next. So what's the key to building a business from essentially nothing to multi-millions in revenue every year? What would you say the biggest key is in order to be able to do that?
I would say there's 3 levels to be able to build a business. The first level is you have to have the skill set. So Jim Rohn talks about, it's not about what you get, it's about who you become. We must become more. We must add to our skill set. At the time, all I knew how to do is sales. Right? I didn't know how to do all these other skills, and so I had to learn how to do all these other skills of managing people, hiring and firing, creating systems, right? Understanding bookkeeping and how to read financials, marketing, how to get leads, how to work with leads, and lastly, sales, how to convert those leads. And so those are all huge skill sets that had to be added to the tool belt. But the first one is you have to do something in order to generate cash. Maybe if you're in real estate, like you need to learn how to run numbers, you need to learn how to get deal flow, and you need to learn how to get financing. Once you learn how to do those 3 things, which are the fundamentals of what I teach my students, then you get started, you get into real estate, right? And then you can start really transforming your life by, like one of my students just made $48,000 on his first flip. Like the dude, literally he makes like 120 a year. Like imagine making almost half of your salary in 3 months. And now he can do it again and again and again because he's learned the skill set of how to do it. So it starts with skill set. After you get the skill set, now you can really start to generate cash. And once you're generating, 300 some thousand plus a year, then you can really start to hire. And so the next level is you move into hiring, which again is more skill sets, but you have to have the basic skill set to bring revenue in the door. Once you're bringing revenue in the door, you can start to hire out the lower volume tasks or the lower dollar per hour tasks, and then really start to scale from there. After you get the hiring set up, then the next level is building systems within the company so that you can actually start to exit from the company. So you as yourself aren't running the company as an entrepreneur. You've got the right people in place because you've hired them, and then you've built the system so that they're running it with accountability with KPIs that do not involve you involved. And KPIs are key performing metrics.
How important is vision when it comes to running a business?
Great question. Uh, Huge, right? We as leaders, we have to be the vision casters. So in order for people to get bought in, number one, you have to have an awesome vision. And number two, you have to be a leader that people want to follow. Right. And so in my opinion, there's A, B, C, and D players. If you've got a big vision, it starts with that. And number two, if you're a C player and you've got a big vision, you're only going to attract C talent. And it's going to be really tough. And believe me, it was really hard at first. Like I passed out 4 times from stress in my first year after leaving my job. I was in my 20s trying to attract and propel people that I did not, they were C and D players, and it was really hard. It was really, really hard. And so I was forced and I went on this hero's journey to become more. And man, it was so worth it in the end.
Yeah, I think I recognize the C and D player thing. I think those come from the John Maxwell 7 Laws of Leadership book. If that's, I think that's ringing a bell there for me. I remember reading that. Like, yeah, you attract what you are into the business, so that makes sense. Now we get into the question of humility, though, because if you have a certain set of skills, right, but you might not necessarily be the best at marketing, let's say. Now you have to have the humility to hire somebody that's better than you, or maybe even the ultimate humility of hiring a CEO for the company that you started. That, woof, that would be something. But again, like, how committed are you to the vision? Like, are these things that you talk about with the clients that you coach?
A lot of my clients that I coach are not quite. I'll say that, right? Like a lot of the clients that I coach are either business owners that are still working within the business a bit, or high perform or W-2 employees that are, they've already got their cash set up. They're making money and they want to optimize their financial blueprint, right? And so instead of buying, what I help people do is number one, not pay as much taxes, but number two, really hypercharge their results in real estate. And a lot of that comes back to, for me, I was able to buy and scale a real estate portfolio with very little cash. And so, I'm over $20 million now in my real estate portfolio. I do have partners within that, so I own about 40% of that. But I was able to do that with little to no cash by using different strategies that I teach on, so that, instead of someone having to save up 20% for a down payment and only being able to buy 1 or 2 properties a year, well, now you can do the strategies that I talk on, like such as the BRRRR strategy, where, I was able to buy 25 properties in 1 year. And now this year I bought 46 properties, and, just churn and churn and churn.
Wow. Are you doing mostly like fix and flip type situations, or are you looking for like multifamily and those types of residential units?
Great question. So at this stage and where I'm at, I am buying single family homes. Now, why the heck am I doing that? Well, to be frank, I have done single family. I've done smaller multifamily. I've done larger multifamily. I've done office, and I've done storage. And after going through the ringer, in 2021, 22, I had bought about 150 units in multifamily buildings. 2023, it got pretty tough. Like, in my opinion, multifamily is a bit of a red market right now, a red ocean, right? And so it's been very difficult to get anything that pencils, because I think there's a influx of demand for multifamily with a lot of operators that don't know what they're doing. And so they're willing to pay so much more for things, or there's operators out there that are just inflating returns and raising capital and really just taking from their investors. I mean, I literally sold the property to a gentleman earlier this year that charged his investor a $500,000 acquisition fee and paid $750,000 more than I would be willing to pay for an asset. And yeah, there's morality to things that I've learned in this industry that people just don't give a shit, for lack of a better word. And so instead of, I like to sleep at night, we'll say that. So I have found that I'm able to find distressed sellers or distressed homes a lot easier, and help people that really need help through those situations and fix problems. When you can fix a problem for someone, that's when you can make a lot of money.
You ever gone into a situation where you buy a distressed property and somebody's living there, and you essentially buy it from them, fix it up, and then rent it to them so they don't have to leave their home?
Hmm. I have never done that. And the reason for that a lot of the times is if they're in a distressed situation, there's usually a pattern that
Hmm.
will repeat. Um, and, you know, it, it's not usually worth investing money if there's going to be a repeated pattern there. Um,
That
so
makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I have done before, like a house we bought earlier this year. Um, it was a really sweet old couple. They put their house on the market. They had 14 different showings, and the sweet Diane was her name. She hated having people through her house. Like, she was definitely an introvert. She hated doing showings. All of those were like pulling teeth for her, having people walk through her house. Eventually, they went under contract, and then the buyer's house ended up not selling, and so it fell out of contract 30 days later. And they were at their wits' end. They did not want to have a bunch of people through their house again, and their house needed a little bit of work. Like, their cabinets needed some work, and they just didn't have the means necessary to fix things up. And so they wanted to move into a retirement home, but they needed the equity in their house to move into the retirement home. And
Hmm.
so I was able to come in, do one walkthrough with just myself, buy their property, and close within 2 weeks for them so that they could get the funds they needed. And then I allowed them to have 45 days to actually get all of their objects, all of their stuff that they had accumulated and moved into their new retirement home that they were moving into. And they were super happy, super grateful. So,
There we go. That's the type of situation that I was looking for there, because I know those things are out there, those opportunities. You just have to be open to them and be, like you said, the moral person, and then those things can happen.
yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Well, let's talk a little bit about the real estate market, since we kind of touched on that a little bit, and the multifamily being kind of a red ocean right now. So along that same vein, I was wondering, is there a good time, quote unquote, good time to buy real estate? Is it like up economy, down economy? Is it you only wait until it's a buyer's market? Like what have you seen, and what is your thoughts on that?
It's a great question. It really depends on what your strategy is. Okay. The best time to buy real estate was yesterday. It's really going up in value. However, there are cycles. And so, if you're planning on doing one thing, and you're trying to get in, it's kind of like the stock market. It's really hard to time the stock market, right? It's really hard to time the real estate market, but overall it's going up, right? And so you can dollar cost average into the stock market, just like you can dollar cost average into real estate. Um, and so it depends on your strategy. For me, I knew when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was in my 20s, no longer in my 20s, but I was in my 20s when I read it. And so I knew that I wanted to have assets that work for me while I slept. And I know that I'm likely not going to sell these assets for the next 40 years, 50 years, right? I'm going to own them for a long time. Time is on my side. And so I knew that it didn't really matter. You just got to get started with something. And I'll reflect back to wherever you're starting out at. Maybe you own zero real estate right now, and you rent where you live. Well, the next best thing for you is to house hack. It's to buy a place that you can move into and rent out the other side. Maybe it's a duplex, maybe it's triplex, maybe it's fourplex, and you can get a loan for 3.5% down with a first time home buyer loan. 3.5% is not much, right? So you can buy a house, and you can start to reduce your living expenses or even get paid to live. That's like level one, right? Now, and it works really well if you're young and motivated, right? If you're not, maybe you've got a family and your wife's not on board and you've got kids and you don't want to share walls. Well, that's cool too. Then, another strategy is, if you're not making what you want in life, then you can learn the skill sets to start flipping properties. Like my student, Andrew, who just made $48,000 on his first flip, right? Like, that is an amazing way to propel yourself to start a business that is generating you income on the side while you still are, working in a job, but you can create a house flipping business, and that house flipping business can create freedom in your life become by generating more cash. Now, the third level of that is maybe you are already generating a lot of cash. You either own a business that you already have a successful business, or you are a successful W-2 employee. You already know how to live below your means, and you've got a surplus in cash that you do need to invest every year. Now, you can start supercharging those investments by buying real estate. And in particular, you can buy value add real estate. And that means solving a problem and then being able to either flip it or hold it. And the reason that's so powerful is once you solve a problem, let's say you buy a property for 100, you put in 20,000 to fix up the kitchen and the bathroom, the paint and the flooring. Now that property is worth 170. Well, you're all in at 120. That property's worth 170. Now you're going to be, number one, cash flowing more. And number two, you've got you generated equity. That equity can then be used for more purchases in the future. And now you've got a good rental.
Okay. And, with me not knowing, obviously, the real estate world like you do, I've heard of that kind of strategy before. It's almost like you're playing leapfrog with home equity and leveraging that into, getting into more properties. But isn't there a place where that leverage dies?
The leverage only dies if you take out too much debt and you cannot cover your debt service, which means you don't have enough cash to pay the loans that you have taken on. So as long as you have a cash, and that's why I have a 2-step framework, right? The first step is you need to build your cash machine, right? You need to have a business that is making you a lot of money, or a job that is making you a lot of money, and you have a surplus in cash. Once you've got that cash machine going, then number 2 is optimize your returns using real estate. And that is where you can use the strategy that I just talked about to move up and up and up. And so the strategy itself is called the BRRR strategy. And it's when you buy a property, you renovate it, you then rent it, you refinance your existing money that you had out, and then you repeat it. So again, as an example, like the second property I ever did, I bought the property for 100,000. I put 22,000 into it. It appraised at 150. The bank gave me a loan for 80% of the appraised value. So they gave me a loan for 120. I was all in at 122. They gave me a loan for 120. And then I put a tenant in there and started cash flowing on it. And so I was all into that property for $2,000. Would you buy assets for $2,000 down? I sure would.
Very good point. And another reason why it's very good to understand finances and cash flow and make sure that you're working with an accountant. Would you agree with that one?
I would agree with that. An accountant is extremely important. When you're building a real estate team, you need to have a team, right? You need to have many people on your team. One of the people is an accountant. I would say that an accountant is not going to be the one that's going to make sure that you cash flow. An accountant is going to be the one that makes sure that you file your taxes correctly at the end of the year and that you get all the write-offs that you should get by owning real estate. That's why Trump doesn't pay taxes. That's why I haven't paid taxes, and it's been great. However, the person that you want in your corner is a consultant to be able to help you with the numbers. If you don't know the numbers initially, really you need to go to a consultant that's going to help you, and a consultant that's been there, done that. There's a lot of accountants that don't own real estate, that have no idea what they're doing, but they know how to file your taxes, right? And then you need to go to someone like myself or someone else that is experienced, that knows what they're doing to run these numbers. And I put my money where my mouth is, just so you know. I've spent $150,000 in coaching. The only way I was ever able to do a $3.5 million deal, like I leapfrogged from doing single family homes to a 26 unit townhome complex that was $3.5 million, where I raised over $1 million for the deal. I had no idea how to do any of that, but I paid for people to help me through it that had already done it.
Very valid point. If you want to know what successful people do, get with them and do what they do, listen to them. And yeah, it's 100% worth it because like you say, you invested 150,000 so far in coaching and got into a $3 million deal. Like I'd say that has some pretty good ROI. And, I think the listeners would agree with that.
Yeah.
Man.
To give you context for that, man, I paid 25,000 for a coaching at that time, paid 25,000 for a coaching class and mentorship. And within 6 months, I had done that $3.5 million deal. That $3.5 million deal, I got paid a $46,000 acquisition fee, and I generated $220,000 in equity that I had in that deal just from putting it all together. So I literally, I don't know what that return is, but it's almost 10x return, I would say, and maybe 5x return, but just within 6 months, right? And so that's people just don't talk about. I mean, again, Jim Rohn, it's not about what you do, it's about who you become. And those skill sets, that knowledge is now with me forever. I can repeat this, and I have repeated. I've done 7 multifamily deals, right? And so all of those things can be repeatable, but you got to learn it, and you can learn it in 2 ways. Either you can learn through the school of hard knocks, and I can tell you a story of my 3rd real estate deal where I lost $64,000, and and I wasted 11 months of my life on this stupid property because I didn't know what I was doing when it came to flipping and working with contractors. And that was really painful. And so I will never pay through the school of hard knocks again. You can either pay through the school of hard knocks or you can pay through experience. And I have money now. And because I have money, this is how the wealthy get wealthier. They pay to play. And I have a budget every single year of money I'm going to spend on education to improve my life and to become more so that I can then share it with other people.
Amen. That's awesome, man. And so, talking about coaching and mentorship, obviously being super important. Um, if someone comes to you and they say, Wyatt, I want to get into the real estate investing world. I'm not quite sure how to do it. I've read the Purple Book, I've watched some YouTube videos, but I really want your mentorship and advice. Someone like that comes to you. I was wondering, what question do you ask them to get to the core of what their issue is and what they're looking for?
Well, I need to know, what is it they're looking to build? Where, what will that do for them once they build it? Right? Like one of my students yesterday, a gentleman just signed up for my coaching program. He wants to get out of debt. He's got $30,000 in debt, and he wants to learn how to flip properties so that he can generate income per year, right? And he'd be super. I mean, he is over the moon if he can make $50,000 next year. And what's beautiful about this is, like, dude, you can do that on one flip, and then you can do that 4 more times in a year, right? Like you can make 400,000 next year just on that, right? And so I need to know, what are you looking to build, and why? What's the behind that? For him, what's behind that is he has 2 kids that, he's kind of struggled financially a lot of his life. And so he wants to provide the 2 kids, a college education, a better life, and the skill sets for how to do that. But what's on my wall over here, John Maxwell, a leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. You have to know the way in order to go the way and then show the way, right? And so he's got to learn the skill set, he's got to go do it, and then he can show his kids how to do it, right? And so he's got such a bigger why behind it. So I need to know, what are you looking to build? Is it going to be what I can actually help you with? And then what is it costing you right now, right? Like if you don't know how to generate $200,000 a year, it's costing you $200,000 a year, right? And so I need to know that. Like, I need to know, what is it actually costing you so that I know how to help you. And then from there, we can see, okay, well, I can give you the tools and the strategies that are proven, that have helped investors across the country use.
So, what does someone need to get started in real estate? Do they need to set up their own business, like an LLC, things like that? Like, what does it actually take to get started and do this?
You need to make a decision. If someone wants to do it, they need a decision. A decision needs to be made that I am going to become a millionaire. I am going to become a real estate investor. Once you decide that and you label that within your identity as yourself, everything else will work itself out. You'll program it into your subconscious, and your subconscious will find what's needed. Okay. But you must program it within yourself, and then you'll find the tools and you'll find the resources necessary, and you'll find the mentors that are there to help you. You'll go to the real estate meetups, but it all starts with a decision. And I see so many people that just they don't live with mission. They don't live with identity. And so if you have that mission, you have that identity, literally you have the resourcefulness within you, and you'll find you'll find the means necessary, and you'll find the people necessary to get you where you need to go.
I am so glad that you went that route with that question, instead of the, the ticking the check boxes of what you need to start a business. That was an amazing answer, and I know it to be true. I've seen that decision making show up multiple times in my life. And, guys, I know that you watching and listening, I know you've probably had that happen for you as well. So if that's the case, I would love to hear those stories. Post them below. Let us know what happened. Wyatt and I want to read them. What was the decision that you made, and how did it impact your life? That's amazing. Oh, well, talking about stories, want to have just a little bit of fun here, because being in real estate, you're connected and working with people all the time. So what is one of the wildest experiences that you've had in this whole real estate journey, in dealing with people, flipping properties? Like, what's one of the wildest stories you've had?
All right. I'll give you one. There's a lot to choose from, but
I'm sure there is.
I'll give you, I'll give you one here. So early off in my real estate journey, I quit my W-2 job that I was making, $225,000 a year. And I started a property management company. And that was, like I said, one of the hardest things I'd ever done. I was working with employees, and I started scaling the team, and we got up to 4 people, and they were all C and D players, and God, it was hard. And I was just muscling everything forward. And there was a certain point where I get a dude in a Harley pulls up to where I personally live. My wife is on the couch, and this guy on the Harley starts walking down the sidewalk, comes up to the door, and he knocks on the door. My wife is freaking out. She's like, "Who is this guy? Do you know this guy?" I'm like, "I have no idea who this guy is." And so I open the door, and I mean, just picture a badass, a bad mother, like the dude, beard down, he's literally wearing like a cut off leather vest, and that's it. And he just goes, "I'm Mike, and you owe me the money." I'm like, who is this guy? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Who are you?" He's like, "I did work at this building that you own." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so number one, I had never met this guy. I had never hired this guy. After I connected the dots a little bit, it turns out that my maintenance tech, who was a full-time employee, was stealing and lying, first off. But what he had done is he had hired Mike to do the work for this property. And then he just inflated his hours saying he was doing it and that it was done. And so he pocketed the money, this other maintenance tech who shall not be named. And then Mike actually did the work. And then the maintenance tech told Mike that I am responsible for paying him the money, and gave him my personal address.
Oh my God.
Keep in mind, my wife is freaking out. Okay. My wife is not happy. Mike is threatening me. I'm like, "Dude, first off, I don't have your money. Like, I already paid this gentleman. And like, here's the situation." And he literally goes, "I don't care. You owe me the money." And I'm like, "Dude, like, I can't help you. Like, if you want to go after this, you can go after this guy." And he literally takes a step forward, looking me dead in the eyes, knowing this other gentleman is a deadbeat, keep in mind. And he goes, "You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip." And chills went through my body. I'm like, "Oh my God." And so he meant business. And then I was just like, "Dude, I'm sorry. Like, I can't, like, we don't have the money in the account, like, things are tight. We're super over on rehab, all the things." And he goes, "This isn't going to be good for you." And eventually I caved, and we came to an agreement where I just paid him half of what he was owed to go away. And I already lost the full amount that my maintenance tech had charged over, the last 2 weeks of working on the property, quote unquote.
Right.
And yeah, it was an eye-opening experience to say the least, that the people I was working with were not great, and that I should not have people over to my personal residence so that my wife can sleep at night a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. The mailing address that I have for the podcast is definitely not my physical address. A hundred
Wise.
percent. 100%. Oh man. So kind of a non sequitur question, but I guess kind of still related a little bit. How important is faith to you in your life and your business? Because man, staring that biker down, somebody was watching out for you.
Mm, yeah, I mean, I believe that I very much believe in God. I personally am a Christian, and I believe that we have souls within ourselves. So we all have souls, and we all are spiritual beings that are in a physical body. And so, for me, it's how can I be a light? How can I share love with the people that I come in contact with? And what that means is just how can I be my best today? How can I experience gratitude in the situation? How can I live on mission and really make my creator proud? Because we are all creators, and then I believe that we have a creator, right? And so that I believe that creator, you know, um, loves us very much and wants us to share our love that we have with others, to not only make him proud, but then also develop in ourselves and experience the feelings of joy and happiness and peace.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. Long ago, I made the connection that we are just, you go back in etymology of incarnation. We are incarnated. Our soul is inhabiting this body. We're just having a human experience right now. Yeah, I absolutely agree in that we are all connected to each other. We are all connected to Him, and we're all down here to learn and trying to do our best and create some awesome things. So I'm definitely honored that you are one of those lights, and it's a pleasure to have you here on the show, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. It's been a pleasure to be on your show, and yeah, I can tell you've got the love within you too. And so, thank you for having a platform where we can share love and share stories and share strategies, so that we all can better our life. And if you're listening to this podcast too, man, like give Brian some love for what he's created. Send him comment below, comment on YouTube, share a like, share this podcast with someone that you think can be positively impacted, because that's literally what we're here to do, is leave positive impact. So yeah, if you've gotten value out of it, help Brian out too.
Well, bless you for saying that, because you took my part of my ending spiel away right there and just gave it some more power. So I definitely appreciate that. But we're going to get into now, just as right at the end here, something I love to do that has nothing to do with entrepreneurship. We're just going to have some fun, and we're going to get to know Wyatt a little bit better. So, random question time. Curious, Wyatt, what is your guilty pleasure?
All right. Well, I will say I had zero time to prepare for any of this. So all of these are going to be off the cuff, just so everyone knows.
That's the intention, my man. That's the
Okay.
intention.
Great. I didn't know if the other guests you sent the questions to. So, okay.
No.
Guilty pleasure. I, I have a sweet tooth. I will say that. Uh, yeah, I absolutely love ice cream, and really any dessert in general. So it's tough for me to turn down a dessert sometimes. I'll say that.
Yep. I 100% feel that. So, ice cream flavor, any particular favorite out there?
Oh man, if you go to Cold Stone's peanut butter cup perfection, it's just got the peanut butter in it, it's got the Reese's in it, and it's got a chocolate ice cream, and it's just so good.
Yeah, Cold Stone. I didn't even know Cold Stone existed until I moved to Arizona. But once I found it, I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yes. Yeah, I got to limit the calories and the frequency of it. I used to go probably a couple times a week, and that I would always wake up not feeling so good. So it's
Yeah,
probably a once a quarter thing now for me.
and that's good. Everything in moderation, right? That's what we're going for here. And obviously, like I said, this was completely unintended. I didn't send these questions, but we're going to get to another question about food and what is your favorite food? And you can't say ice cream now because we already know that.
I can't say ice cream. Well, honestly, I love Chipotle. So a nice Chipotle bowl with chicken and guac, and it's just it. The reason I love it is, number one, it tastes incredible, and number two, I feel incredible after eating it. So I'm very conscious of what I eat for energy. Ice cream not being one. That's why it's a once a quarter thing now. But I'm very conscious of my energy because I want to be the very best person I can be for my team, for my family, for my creator. Right. And so, yeah, Chipotle is fantastic. And I feel great after it.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, we're just, I knew we're getting along famously, and there's a reason why. It's because we love ice cream and we both love Chipotle. So there you go.
There we go.
And one last question before we let you go, Wyatt. What is a bucket list travel spot that you have not yet visited?
Well, I've gone to a lot of places. I will say that, like in 2022, when I left my job, my wife and I went on 14 trips, and it was a lot of fun. We've traveled a lot in the last few years because we've got our first child on the way. And so we knew that was something we always wanted to do. And that's why we strive so hard with the business to be able to create that freedom for ourselves. However, there has been one place I have not been to, and my wife has been dying to go to, and that's South Africa for a safari.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I follow a photographer online that I believe he just did his second safari trip. So I love watching those videos and seeing the pictures that he's taken. Is that part of the reason you're going? Are you a shutterbug too?
I like to be at my distance safely with animals and trips, and I am not a camper. I am a sleep in my bedder. We'll say that. But my wife really loves animals, and for whatever reason, she really has a draw to go to South Africa to experience that experience. See great white sharks and sea lions and elephants and all the other things. So that is a bucket list item for us because I love her very much, and I think it'd be a fun experience too.
Yeah. Again, some of the videos that I've seen, they're just incredible. So yeah, it would be an amazing experience. I have no doubt. Well, Wyatt, again, man, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for all the value and the insights that you've shared with us here today. And we just can't thank you enough. Where can people go to connect with you, get into your world? And if they're thinking real estate is the avenue for them, obviously you're the man. So where do we go?
And well, I appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on as well, Brian. And if you're still listening to this, then props to you guys. If you want to get in touch with me, like right now, go to my website and go get on my newsletter, WyattSimon.com. And that's WYATTSIMON.com. It's where I will literally add value to your inbox every single week of just life lessons that I'm going through. So you can join the newsletter. There's also a ton of free resources on there if you're looking to get started in real estate. And then I would say the last thing is if you're like, dude, I want to get started in real estate. Well, I wrote a book for you, and it's called Your First 100 Units, the Real Estate Investor's Playbook to Scaling a Rental Portfolio. So you can purchase that on Amazon. It's where I've broken down literally everything that I've learned and all the money that I've spent for coaching and processes. And it's a lot of the stuff that I teach on. It's all the information. I've broken it down into a $20 book for you so that you can literally learn everything that I've known for $20 and get started today.
Perfect. Well, again, Wyatt, thank you so much. Guys, those links are going to be below there for you. So go click, check it out, check out the site, get the book, and just get this information out. Share it with your network. You never know whose life you can positively impact with a simple and free share. So thank you so much for your time and attention, and peace. I'll see you in the next one.